So looking at the warranties examples I cited in the video, the first one I'll talk about is Lisa versus the stationery store. Hopefully you have the printout and you work through the examples. Lisa goes into the Springfield stationery store where she finds a display of regular wooden pencils on the front counter. She removes 3 from the display and places them before the clerk, who says that'll be $1.50. Lisa pays that amount, takes the pencils, and makes her way home. Question 1 is, Lisa sharpens one of the pencils to a nice neat point. When she starts to do her homework, she discovers that no matter how hard she tries, she can't make any marks on her paper with a pencil. And the question is, was this pencil merchantable at the time of the sale? And the answer to that is, it was not merchantable. To be merchantable, goods must be at least fit for the ordinary purposes for which such goods are used. Here, the pencil that won't make a mark on a piece of regular homework type style paper does not meet that standard. It would be a lot different, of course, if Lisa were trying to write on wax paper or a piece of plastic or maybe even a piece of wood. But if it's not fit for ordinary purposes for which the goods are used, it will not be merchantable. So now Lisa takes her second pencil and sharpens that one. She writes with it for a time, but then the point breaks. Has she a claim that this pencil was unmerchantable? In this instance, the pencil here is probably merchantable, right? I mean, it only broke once. She may not be happy with that. For goods to be merchantable, they need not be perfect or all that the buyer hoped for. Of course, the pencil would not be merchantable if Lisa could demonstrate, like in example 1, the point was repeatedly breaking when no more than ordinary pencil pushing was forced or applied. But here, reasonable expectations doesn't have to be perfect. What is reasonable? And here, it's pretty reasonable situation where this will be deemed merchantable. This pencil will be deemed merchantable. So how about number 3? In frustration, Lisa decides to take her homework. Decides to do her homework in ink. Writing with a ballpoint pen is fine for a while, but eventually she makes a mistake. She tries to erase her error using the rubber tip on the end of the third of her pencils, and it doesn't work. Was this, the third pencil, unmerchantable because the eraser doesn't erase? Doesn't seem reasonable to think that the eraser at the end of a pencil will erase a mark made with ink, right? It should, of course, erase pencil marks, but even here, we can't push things too far, kind of like example 2. Suppose Lisa, using a pencil, makes a mistake in her work and tries to erase it. The eraser at the pencil's end does lift most of the markings from the paper, but it doesn't do so perfectly. We've all been there before, right? There are still faint traces of what she's written, or perhaps more likely in like an indistinct smudge. The first few times this happens, she may be surprised and even upset that the paper is not brought back to its pristine condition, but she's going to have to learn to live with it. Lisa continues to learn her lessons so she can grow up to be more reasonable, I guess. So a product which performs its ordinary function adequately does not breach the implied warranty of merchantability merely because it does not function as well as the buyer would like, or even as well as it could. So that kind of gives us the explanation for 3 and 2 in this situation. Number 4, she drops the idea of working in pen. She sharpens the third pencil, which writes perfectly well and without any breakage. She gets her homework done with no problem. She continues to use this pencil to do her schoolwork. Later in the week, when she is resharpening the pencil, she is surprised to discover that the lead in the pencil runs out about halfway down its original length, leaving her with only a solid stick of wood painted yellow. Does she have a breach of warranty claim against the stationery store? This one is tricky. There is no right or wrong answer to this. I just wanted to present the situation of reasonableness. What's the reasonable buyer's expectation? What's the reasonable use? Some people may argue that, well, as a matter of economy, if the pencil gets too short, it's going to be hard to write with, so I'm not going to use it when it gets to a certain size. So I put lead, and it's not really lead anymore. It's I don't remember what the kind of material is, but it's not quote unquote lead. It's kind of like a version of a lead pencil, but they don't put lead in pencils. Nonetheless, in this instance, there might be a group of people who won't use a pencil if it gets to a certain length. Or maybe there are people who will argue, but that's what I paid for. I will use it all the way down to the nub because that's what I paid for. So here there's no right or wrong answer. It's kind of tricky. It's to show reasonable buyer expectations and the reasonable expectations of a use of the pencil. So now we're going to switch to Marge versus the Quickie Mart. At the Springfield Quickie Mart, Marge takes from the shelf a can that's marked peas, quote unquote, and buys the can along with other groceries. At home, when she opens the can, she discovers it contains nothing but canned corn. It's perfectly safe, nutritious, and tasty, but it's just that. It's corn. Was this can merchantable? If she chose to, could Marge successfully sue the Quickie Mart for this grave infraction? And if so, what options would Tom, the owner of the Quickie Mart, have? So, is the can merchantable? No, actually it's not. The can was not merchantable. Even if you assume that canned corn is fit for the ordinary purpose for which people buy other canned vegetables, including peas, its contents did not conform to the promise or affirmations of fact made on the container. That was our number 2 in the list of how express warranties are made. The Quickie Mart operator is responsible for breach of warranty. There would be no need for Marge to show that Tom, who's our owner of Quickie Mart, that Tom knew the can was mistakenly labeled, nor that there was any reason he should have known. Or she doesn't have to show that he was negligent in any way. Remember, our breach of warranty liability is a strict liability. Don't have to show there was a mistake, doesn't have to show he should have known or knew, or that there was any negligence. So the seller's intention and state of mind are irrelevant. The thing sold was not what it was supposed to be. End of story, at least as far as Marge is concerned. Of course, if the Quickie Mart is made to pay Marge for this breach, it should itself have a warranty action against whatever dealer supplied it with the mismarked can. So that's the answer to number 2.